You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking, so always looking for and finding the good. And you've tuned in consciously and conscientiously to the Joy of Living podcast with your humble host, Barry Shore. And you tuned in for one reason only. It's the best reason in the whole world. You care the most in the entire world about you, Y-O-U. And that's great, by the way, because when you become the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony, create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And we're going to talk a lot about peace and happiness and harmony and the power that you have. Wait till you meet our amazing fellow. I'll give you a hint. His first name is Spike. How's that for getting your attention? Okay, so just remember, you are good looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. Now, you can't get much gooder than learning about the three fundamentals of life, which is what we discuss on this show. Three fundamentals are, number one, life. Your life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, number two happens. Now, in this case, good number two, you go mad. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. You lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in the world. And the third fundamental is to uncover the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simple example. Right now, this show is being carried around the world through the internet. Over 401,000 people have joined you at this very moment listening to the show. By the time we bring on Spike, we'll probably go to 425,000 people, because you're always recommending it to your family and friends, and we're deeply humbled and honored you do that. Again, I urge you, share this show with 5 people. That's it, 5. You want to share with 50 or 100? That's great. At least 5. That way we'll touch 2 million people around the planet every single show, and even more as we go along. So again, www, what does that mean? Ask anybody. It stands for something on the internet. You're right. However, in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, www stands for what a wonderful world. And what is the word, right? WHATA. And of course, a tip of the hat and a big thank you to Satchmo, Louis Armstrong, for enabling that song, What a Wonderful World, to go viral and touch not just tens of millions or hundreds of millions, billions of people around the planet. And whenever you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, what do you do right away? You can't help it. You smile. Now, smile is one of the most important words you get to internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life, because smile stands for seeing miracles in life every day. That's it. Seeing miracles in life every day. Now, I am privileged to speak to people on these webinars and in person. Recently, I spoke to a group of 1,127 people and talking about the story of Barry Shore. I'm talking about seeing miracles in life every day. And some people raise their hand and say, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours. I haven't seen any miracles. And I ask them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can barely do that. You have water to drink. You have food to eat. You have a place to sleep. You have family. You have friends. Every single one of those is a miracle. And what's the proof? Simple as proof. 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or listening, you're here. Therefore, you have an obligation to live life to the full and to go mad, make a difference in the world. Now, again, I urge everybody to, let me tell you a quick story before I urge you to do something. Quick story. It's about me. Imagine, if you can, I'm standing up in the morning, completely healthy and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. And that evening, I'm in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed, my neck down. Nothing in my body moved. And it wasn't an automobile accident. It wasn't a spinal injury. It was a rare disease. Took over my body and rendered me what's called a quadriplegic. Nothing on the body moved. Couldn't just communicate by blinking my eyes. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't move. I was in a wheelchair for 4 years. I had braces on both my legs, my hips to my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. Can't walk up a stair by myself. Can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, all because of one word. Smile. Seeing miracles in life every day. Now, I got to tell you a funny story, though. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me recently and says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile S-M-I-E-L? I thought about it. Smile. Sounds the same. Why not? I asked her how come. She says, it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. I don't know about an 8-year-old, but what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a wonderful acronym. It stands for causing, rethinking, enabling all to excel. That's right, rethinking. It's what we call a shift in perspective. Now, I got to tell you, I've been working with people for more than 4.5 decades, and 97.2% of all the people I work with, they drop the F in shift, and the other stuff happens. You got to be effing careful with your F. You want to shift your perspective just a little bit, and guess what happens? Your eyes open, and now you can internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever learn. And these are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Choice, how you choose to respond in any given situation will determine your path in life and your trajectory. Now, before we bring on Spike, yeah, I love it. I'm going to urge everybody I have to warn you. Actually, I'm going to warn you. I do use a lot of 4-letter words. I even use the 4-letter FU word, and I do it because of the shock value and it's fun. Now, of course, the 4-letter words that we use, because we live in the world of positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, are love, life, hope, free, play, pray, gift, swim. And the 4-letter FU word is fun. Fun. That's right. F-U, capital N, capital N. So after the show, you see your family and friends, you have a twinkling eye, a smile on your face. Remember the stands where point your finger and says, F-U, everybody. But remember to add right away, capital N, capital N. Fun. So where'd you get that? Well, I listened to Barry Shore. He wants to teach the world to F-U, capital N, capital N. So you got their attention, and now you can talk to them about the wonderful things we're going to discuss with Spike. So before we bring on Spike, I'm going to urge everybody to do the following, because this is going to make you happier, healthier, and wealthier. That's what we want, right? I want you to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life. And these words are, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Therefore, be kind always. Kind stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I can't think of anybody that inspires noble deeds more than the amazing, wonderful, fabulous, exuberant Spike Cohen. Spike, please say hello to 414,822 people around the world.
Hello, 414,822 people. I've been writing down acronyms, but none of them are good. So I'm going to let you stick with the acronyms. But I'm so happy to be here, Barry. Thanks for having me on.
Spike, I told you, first of all, isn't it a great name? I mean, think about it. In sports, we like Spike. You know, Spike holds things together. He's radiant. It was a gold spike that was put in the ground that connected 2 railroads in the United States of America and made us the greatest power on the face of the earth for good. Good is a great acronym. We'll talk about that in a moment. So I'm going to tell everybody, if I start telling you all the stuff about Spike, we'll take the rest of the show. I'm going to give you 3 highlights, 3 data points. Number 1, Spike is a successful business owner, a libertarian, capital L, libertarian, and also small l, activist, and a media figure. And you'll hear why in just a couple of moments. The other thing is about Spike that I love the most is that he realizes that you need to weave together an effective political message with entertainment and activism. We call it edutainment, right?
Yes.
And the third thing is that Spike, he talks about common sense reforms. Hello, common sense reforms. So let's just jump right in and go to the heart of who you are, Spike Cohen. And those of you, that's an inside baseball name, Cohen, by the way. So those of you who know anything about people in the world. But Spike is an unusual, and I'm not going to ask you for the origin because you told me, but we might discuss it en passant. Let's just start with the essence of you. Community activism. I mean, talk to us. Hello, we had a community activist who became president of the United States. Is that what you're talking about? Or is it even more than that?
Well, I think it's actually much more than that. What we do at my organization, You Are the Power, we find people who are being disrespected. And I'll get into what that means in a bit, but they're being disrespected by their local and state governments. It's anything from someone who has a small business or a home, and a local official or a city council is trying to use eminent domain or some other mechanism they have to just steal their home from them. We've been dealing a lot with, in fact, I talked about at the speech at Freedom Fest that you were there for. We're dealing with a lot of families who are having their children taken from them because their children have chronic health conditions, and the government gets paid every time they take a child. So they wrongfully call it abuse. They say that the child is injured because of abuse and take the children from the parents. Many different stories like this. And what we do is we highlight these stories, we get them out to the public, but we don't do it just to get people angry and have them say, oh, the government's so corrupt. We give them an immediate call to action. Instead of saying the government did this, instead we say these specific people are doing this to this family. Here are their email addresses and phone numbers. We're going to, all of us, thousands, tens of thousands of us, are going to reach out to these folks and remind them that they're human beings. The people that they're doing this to are also human beings, and all they have to do is back off and do the right thing. And we have had a more than 90% success rate on getting government officials to back off by simply reminding them that you're a human being just like us, and you should be respecting us as individual human beings the same way we do to you.
So I want to unpack a few things here because, again, I have the privilege of being with Spike together at a remarkably wonderful, powerful, positive, pleasant event, 3-day, 4-day event called Freedom Fest. Spike doesn't just speak about things, he lives it. And the genius, and the reason I asked him to be on the show, and I'm really honored that you're here, is that the ability to break through the bureaucratic morass, the gate, the shield that is oftentimes put around and keeps a human being from being a human being, in my humble opinion, is the greatness of America. You don't have this in most societies around the world. In most societies around the world, you have bureaucracy. Let's be blunt. That's the nature of government, oftentimes oppression and suppression. What you don't have is the humanity that's still part and parcel, that is, I think, a feature and a benefit of the United States. Am I being too Pollyannish about that?
That's what it's supposed to be. At its best, the American experiment is one of respecting the individual human being, respecting each one. And that doesn't mean every man's an island and that we don't work together or anything like that. It means just the opposite. It means understanding that each and every single one of you is your own person who has your own autonomy, your own decision making, your own responsibilities, your own rights, and everything that comes with that, and respecting that. And that the purpose of our government is supposed to be to affirm, understand, respect, and defend that. And that's it. And what's happened over time, you mentioned bureaucracy. Over time, there's this sort of mission creep that sets in with any large organization, including government. And what happens over time is, in order to do those things, they keep creating more and more systems and agencies and programs and everything. And before you know it, you have people that are basically saying, well, I'm powerless. I'm just one cog in the machine. But the reality is that's all an illusion. And we prove it every day with the work that we do. When we contact these officials and say, we're actually watching what you're doing, we know it's wrong, you know it's wrong. These are human beings you're doing this to. These are not, funding opportunities or political abstractions. These are human beings, and we want you to do the right thing. Again, more than 9 times out of 10, they do the right thing. Now, is it because they're doing it for political expediency? Is it because they're doing it because they don't want the pressure? That might be the case. Maybe some of them are doing it because they realize, wow, I never thought of it that way. Whatever the reason is, 2 things are happening. One, we are getting that immediate pressure off of these people who are having their children taken from them, their homes stolen, their small businesses destroyed, all of these other terrible things that we've dealt with, people having their grandparents and great-grandparents removed from their homes, all of these horrible things. We put an end to that. The second thing that we do, And long term, the more powerful thing that we do is we show people that there is a way to fight back against this. And it's not to just show up and vote every 2 years or every 4 years. In fact, some would argue that's not a very effective way at all, but that's not the only way they can do it. They can't just, they don't have to just shrug their shoulders and say, there's nothing I can do about it. It's too powerful of a system. I can't fight back. And they certainly don't have to get violent or anything like that. There is an effective and peaceful and frankly respectful way to do this. And we are doing it every day. And as we're doing it, we are building up a bigger and bigger movement so that eventually we'll be able to move on, not just to local and statewide issues, but eventually to federal issues where we're growing chapters in other countries. We're in the process of doing that as well. And it all boils down to one thing, and it's what I call the principle of human respect. When we are respected as individual human beings, we are more prosperous, we are more harmonious, and we are happier. And obviously, conversely, when we're not respected as human beings, we're less prosperous, we're less harmonious, and of course, we're less happy. So if that's the case, if we know that it's all about human respect, then it's up to us to band together and demand that respect as human beings.
Al, I realize, and I think people are leaning in, I want to urge everybody the following. Don't take notes. Don't write anything down. Lean in and feel the experience of a person who's leading the tip of the spear of a movement. We'll talk about how large the movement is, thank God, and what it's doing. And it's not just in the United States of America, it is worldwide, although this is the place where things begin to happen because we are existentially a free society or an open, more open society than others. Again, I want you to consider the following. Listen to what was happening here today. The reason we record these is so you can listen again. The second time you listen, have a pencil and paper, a pen and paper, whatever you do to take notes, write stuff down. And then you're going to third time, I want you to hear it because I want you to get involved. As Spike mentioned, this is a movement. And there is no such thing as a powerless person. You mentioned about people think that they're a cog in the big machine. Well, let's take a positive Barry Shore aspect of an acronym called COG. COG stands for Channel of Goodness, a child of God.
Oh, wow.
When you recognize that you are a cog, you can celebrate it. I'm a cog. I'm a channel of goodness, a child of God. And there are others by the tens and hundreds of thousands around the world who are in that same light atmosphere. And I mean really bright light atmosphere that Spike is talking about, and that you can affect positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant change 9 out of 10 times, whatever the reasons, whether it's expediency, as you said, or because it's the human condition. To be able to touch humanity in a bureaucracy that creates barriers, it's designed to create barriers. What you're doing here, Spike, with You Are the Power, is you are the lightsaber that cuts through. It's fun to think about. People know what a laser beam is today, I guess because of Star Wars and just because lasers and such. But that with light, you can cut through steel. Yep. Well, guess what you are? You are light cutting through the bureaucratic steel. It's wonderful. And I love how you say that. We are going to fight. We are going to rage against the machine, but we're doing it in the Spike Cohen way. You're a happy warrior.
Very much so, yes. And I decided when we were doing this, there are already a lot of angry people out there. And there is a way to, anger is very often when people are frustrated by something, they know it's wrong, they know what needs to be done, but they don't feel a way to be able to direct it. They don't see a blueprint of how to actually direct it positively. So that's just heat. That's light going in every direction and just, and just creating heat. Using your laser analogy, we're focusing all of that energy and that heat into actually exposing something, shining light on it, and like you said, breaking through the bureaucracy of it. And it is. That's why we call this You Are the Power. Because the purpose of that is to remind people that they have way more power than they are led to believe. The system isn't just designed to kind of hold you down and keep you in a box. It's also designed to make you feel like there's just nothing you can do about it. that, it's you're just one person, and yeah, there are other people who agree with you, but you're overwhelmed by this giant Leviathan. And, we learned the first time we watched The Wizard of Oz, so much of that is just, it's illusion. It's not really there. There was during the American
Let me do
Revolution.
that on that
Go ahead. Yeah.
beautiful idea of illusion. We have something that's real. We have sponsors that love the show, and we vet them. We wouldn't have them on if we didn't think they're worthy of your time and attention, and maybe even your money. So we're going to come right back with Spike Cohen and more of this, breaking through the illusion, creating reality. Right after this brief message. Don't go away. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking because you're looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. Our cup runneth over with good. His name is Spike Cohen, and he is breaking through the illusions, and he's showing us where people do have the power. It's been invested in us. It's part of the American way of life, part of our value system. And of course, that's the nature of bureaucracy, to fight against that. But the light will overpower the darkness. You mentioned about anger. And anger, as we talked about the analogy with laser, anger is diffused.
Yeah.
And power is directed. That's the laser beam.
Focused.
There's a great quote from Marcus Aurelius almost 2 millennia ago. He says, anger is the wind that blows out the lamp of reason. And that's what you're helping us do, is to, as the happy warrior, is to understand that we do have this power and ability. Let's add to the community activism and talk about, because you mentioned human respect, but we'll get there in a moment, about living healthy through nutrition and exercise, and why it's also incumbent upon every happy warrior, that's what we'll call us now, every happy warrior, to make sure that we do live in a healthy, nurturing, nutritious environment, because that's going to give us, I believe, that extra boost of knowing that we do have the power, and by coming together, we can affect positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant change. So talk to us about what it means to live in a healthy way.
That's a lesson that was a very hard lesson for me to learn several years ago. I used to live a very unhealthy lifestyle, not just the typical sedentary lifestyle and, eating foods you shouldn't eat and eating too much of them, but also a very stressful lifestyle. I would say things like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, and think, just, I had this mindset. I will just work, and things like family, my marriage, my personal health, my mental health, those things will happen afterwards. I'll deal with that later. Oddly enough, when you don't deal with things, they get worse and worse. And that came to a head in 2014 when I woke up one day and the right half of my body was going numb. Fast forward a few weeks later, I was told that I most likely had MS. And fast forward 2 years later, I was officially diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That forced me to take my health seriously. That wasn't actually the wake-up call moment, oddly enough. The wake-up call moment was when I was discussing with my neurologist the treatments for MS. And this was supposed to be a very hopeful conversation. For those who don't know, in the last 20 years, MS has become a disease that once you find the right treatment, it can be put in remission permanently. It's an incredible thing.
Wait. I want you to repeat that, because those are not just words coming out of someone's mouth. Here's a man who was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, which I have two close friends who passed away in the past couple of years who were debilitated by MS. I want you to repeat the words that you said, because they are so empowering. Please.
20 years ago, if you were told that you had MS, 25 years ago, if you were told that you had MS, they basically would just tell you what the course of your disease would look like. There were no treatments or anything like that. We've now gone so far in the other direction, where when they tell you you have MS, they then discuss with you your treatment options to put it in remission permanently. But here's what happened when they did that. They met with me, big smiles on their faces, and they said, we're going to find the right treatment for you. And what's going to happen is we're going to be able to slow down the progression of your MS so that it's no different than the aging process. That hit me like a ton of bricks, because in that moment, I realized I had spent the last 2 years, my waking and sleeping thought was MS. How am I going to fight this MS? I got to stop this MS. I got to put this MS in remission. I got to fight this MS. And I realized something. We are all here for a fairly limited period of time. In the scale of things, it's a blip in time. It is an absolute miracle that we were ever even here in the first place. If you think of all the things in time that came up to the moment of your conception that could have happened to stop that from happening, you've won an unlimited number of lotteries multiple times in a row for you to even just be here. And then it's such a rare, it's such a fleeting amount of time that you are here. And I realize here I am worried about something that ultimately in the scale of things doesn't even matter. And so that forced me not just to look at my nutrition and exercise and supplementation and all these things that I do to that I've lost close to 100 pounds. All of my vitals are great now. My MS is now in remission and has been for 7 years and counting. But it also forced me to look at how I look at life. And it changed everything. I retired from the work that I was doing. I took a year off to kind of reset myself mentally. And I came back and said, I want to serve others. And however I can best do that, I'm now in a financial position where I can do that. And so that's what I'm going to do. And that has ultimately led to what I'm doing at You Are the Power.
Again, I urge everybody, don't take notes, feel the experience. Come back and listen again and have, whatever you want to do to take notes and such. And then the third time, because you've been given 2 pieces of data, which should be able to enable you to shift your perspective. Remember, keep that F in place so the other stuff happens. You want to shift your perspective. One of those pieces of data is you have won the lottery. When anybody ever asks, and I do this actually when I do my webinars in person, how many people here have won a lottery? And usually, I do this because I'm using your insight as a springboard. Maybe one hand goes up, maybe, oftentimes none. And I said, well, that's interesting. How many people here are alive? Well, everybody laughs and puts up their hands. I say, hello, is that not the lottery of life? if you had a choice between $100 million after taxes that you're going to have and you're going to be able to live one day more, or not have the $100 million and live for the next 20 years, which would you choose?
Exactly.
Well, duh.
Yeah. And
So
calling it, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add the other piece. The other shoe that is now didn't drop, but you put on, because now you got the bounce and your pep in your step, is that you recognize that the key to life is service. Service is the key to success in life.
Yep. When I was going through all of this, I was in a bit of an existential crisis of, why are we even here? Is it just to suffer? What's the point of this? And I looked at the common thread between all the different major belief systems and faiths, including atheism. I looked at all of it. And what I saw is the common threads I saw were, broadly speaking, it is essentially impossible that you're here. Calling it a lottery gives very short shrift to just what odds you've had to face to be here. Every nanosecond from the moment of the creation of the universe until your conception, every nanosecond you won a lottery whose odds are impossible to count against you. And to be conceived, it's infinitely impossible that you're even here, and yet here you are. Our time here is somewhat of a mystery, but one thing we do know is that it is incredibly, incredibly fleeting. And it could end at any moment, and we know it will end. And the only logical conclusion, the only logical response that I could have to such a rare and fleeting gift is immense gratitude. And the only way that the common thread I saw for how to express that gratitude is through the way that we treat ourselves and others. And so that was, it was a much longer path than what I just said for me to figure that out. But once I did, I realized, I've been doing this all wrong. I am thankfully now in a place financially where I'm able to focus essentially solely on service. But now that I'm there, continuing to pursue pieces of paper until I'm in the grave doesn't make any sense to me, when I could be spending the rest of my life expressing the gratitude that I feel. And that's the work that I do with You Are the Power. That's the work that I do with a lot of things. But it really comes down to that. When I see people that are being harmed, and it's because this person is forgetting that this is also a person, then I see no other thing that I want to do other than show everyone what's happening and then contact this person and remind them, you're a human being. These people are human beings. Do the right thing, back off and stop doing what you're doing. And especially once it actually started working, it wasn't just a proof of concept.
Right.
I, I see, the first few times I'm like, let's see if this even works. And it did. Now this is all I want to do.
For those of you who are only listening, I applaud you. I urge you to consider watching as well, because when you see Spike articulating what he's talking about, you see the beams, you see the face light up and a smile, because that's what service is about. And what he's doing, the winning ticket that he's found, you continuing the analogy, is that, yes, enabling someone to recognize that they are someone, they're human, and that the someone or someones that they are affecting in an adverse way, if they were to look at it from the human's perspective of even putting themselves in the same position, would you still do that? Well, then that lessens the bureaucratic aspect and puts in the human aspect, and therefore can find common ground and relief.
100%. Very often when we think about government corruption, or these people that are doing these terrible things, we start to think of them as some kind of like cartoon villain. We expect that they wake up and go, "Hey, what evil can I inflict on the world?" That's nothing like that. I show up to these city council meetings and speak sometimes directly to these council members, these mayors, these board members, and things like that. They're drinking coffee just to stay awake. They're not sitting there and thinking, "Oh, what terrible things can I do to the world?" They at some point turned off their humanity when it comes to their work in this capacity. Now, when they leave it, they go back to kissing their children goodnight before they go to bed, and going to church or whatever house of worship they may go to, and giving to charity, and maybe even volunteering at food banks, and all the things that inside of them tell them, I'm a good person, I'm helping others. But in this one capacity of their life, in the government, when they get behind that dais, or when they have their little name tag there on the table, or they put on their fancy suit, suddenly now they're not themselves, they're a government official, which means there are just certain things they have to do. And what we do is remind them that actually a lot of these things you don't have to do, and deep down you shouldn't be doing them. And again, maybe they back off because of political expediency. That's up to them to work through why they're doing it. But we tell them, we know you're doing the wrong thing. We know you're doing the wrong thing. Here's what you should be doing. And then when they do the right thing, for whatever reason they're doing it, we tell everyone, now go thank them. Thank them for doing the right thing. Now,
so let's talk about that, because remember in the beginning of the show, we talked about, I urge everybody, I plead, I beg, consciously and conscientiously use the term thank you 3 times a day. Okay, sometimes people say it 20 times a day because you're saying somebody opens the door, thank you. Okay, I'm talking not perfunctory. Consciously and conscientiously, when you do that, you are now channeling the G word, gratitude.
Yep.
And when you're living in gratitude, when you're thinking in gratitude, and you're expressing gratitude, your being shifts. Again, keep that F in place. And I'll give you this as a gift, because you love acronyms, or at least mine. GIFT is a wonderful acronym. It stands for Godly Inspiration Facilitating Transformation. And that's what you've done here. So when you've brought to be a service, and then you are the power. So as a movement, you are literally being able to touch and activate tens of thousands of people who also want to do the right thing in the happy warrior mode. Isn't that right, Spike? Tell us about the movement and the size of the movement, and what it means to have the ability to contact 40, 50, 100, 200,000 more people that want to be people, to touch other people.
Yep. We have thousands of members at this point across the planet. We have members in every single state. We have members in dozens of other countries as well. And more importantly, our annual reach last year was just over 150 million. 150 million people saw our various causes that we were working on, and hundreds of thousands of them joined us in sending an email, sending a text message, mentioning an official on social media, sharing our content, doing something to actually take action, not just look at that and say, wow, that's a darn shame. Someone ought to do something about that. Actually doing something about it. And I actually, when I do my causes, when I put out videos and posts, I will say, here are these folks. This is what's happening to them. At the end of this, I'm going to tell you how you can help. And then I tell their story so they have all the information before they move forward. But I always make sure people know I'm not just telling you to get mad. I'm telling you what to do. I'd like to, for a moment, go back to what you just mentioned about thanking people 3 times. When I was doing all of this studying on, literally typing in things like how to not be sad anymore, or, how to improve my mental health. When I was at my worst with my MS and with my mental health of having to deal with all that, one of the things I came across was active gratitude. And there were many different practices that it advised you to take to be able to do that. One of them was something that started off as very, very difficult and is now the easiest thing of my day. When I was in the hospital, this was at a time I was in the hospital just about every month, dealing with relapses and infusions of medications that weren't working and all sorts of terrible stuff. But I was told every night before you go to bed, write down 3 things that were unique to that day that you were grateful for. And you couldn't just say, oh, I'm grateful I woke up, I'm grateful I'm going to bed. It had to be something specific to that day. And when I tell you, there were days that I was having to write down things like, the tea that someone poured me smelled nice. I was scraping to look for things that I was grateful for in that day. There were some very
But you
tough
were
days,
looking. Here's
but
the
I was
key.
looking. And that's what happens when you are actively looking for things to be grateful for. It completely shifts your mindset of what it is you're looking at.
Keep that F in place.
We are, I think, for survival purposes, we evolved into looking for the problem with the idea that we can fix it. But the problem is, as our life is becoming as our problems are more and more scarce compared to our ancestors, now it means we're just actively looking for problems as what used to be a survival mechanism that's no longer serving us.
By the way, let me put you on pause.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about, and again, we're talking about shift, keep that F in place because the other stuff happens, is to shift perspective so that you do become a good-looking person. Remember, what's the definition of a good-looking person? Always looking for and finding the good. So once you shifted your perspective and you went away from the survival mode of the saber-toothed tiger, and recognizing that the shift in modality is, there's no saber-toothed tiger, or I saw one at the zoo, or I read a book about it to my grandkid, or my In other words, I'm looking for the good, and guess what happens? The whole physiognomy changes. In other words, I'm saying this, you don't have to agree, because I've been through paralysis. I was a quadriplegic. I can tell you that there's a shift in the physical as well as the spiritual and mental being when goodness suffuses your being rather than stress in the negative. Right? That helps.
100%.
It makes you healthy and wealthy and wise.
Even after they started me on my infusion, even after I had lost close to 100 pounds, for the better part of a year, I still kept feeling like I was getting worse. And then I realized that a lot of that was because I was spending all my days thinking about terrible things. I was looking for my newest symptom or my newest worsening of my symptom. And I started saying, you know what? I'm going to expand upon what I've been doing. I'm not just going to be actively grateful. I'm going to create things to be grateful for. And so I started working out more. I started getting out in the sun more. I started going and taking my wife out on date nights. I started doing more things that I could then write down and say I'm grateful for. I was now not only, I guess there are 3 phases. First is try to find something to be grateful for just in that moment. The second phase is actively be looking for things to be grateful for. The third thing is when the real magic happens, which is actively create things to be grateful for.
Okay. Again, everybody, don't try and take notes. Just feel the experience. Go back the second time and write everything you want to know about Spike and all the things that he's talking about doing, it's in the show notes. Just go there. You don't have to write anything down. It's all there. And share this with at least 5 people, because that way we'll touch over 2 million people, because we have over 420,000 people listening right now. 5 people, that's over 2.5, almost 2.5 million people. Because this is so important. We're talking about human respect. We're talking about governments encroaching and how we can push aside the illusion of them, because they're really big smoke and you can push it aside. And we're doing it because of the human condition that is rooted in gratitude and service. So we're going to go to a brief break. Again, we wouldn't have these sponsors if we didn't think they were worthy of your time and your attention and probably your money, because these are good services and products. We'll be right back with more wonderful Spike after this brief message. Don't go away.
What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card, and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. You're good looking, because you're always looking for and finding the good, and you're writing it down. 3 things that you are actively happy and appreciative of in gratitude every night before you go to sleep. Because when you do that, guess what happens? The subconscious takes that in and says, oh, I love you. The first rule of learning how to live well is to learn how to fly. Did you know that? Spike, you want to learn how to fly. What does FLY stands for? First, love yourself. When you can do that, now you can be a channel of goodness, a cog, a child of God. So we have on our final segment here, I'd like to, if you'd be so kind, let's go and revisit your principle of human respect. Because that's what's driving you. That's what You Are the Power movement is all about. And that is, you said, touching 150 million people last year. Hello. And the ability to intervene in a positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant manner that allows human beings to live as human beings. So give us some more insight. And from you, you were the vice presidential candidate in the United States of America on the Libertarian ticket in 2020. I mean, let's be blunt. That's not just, hey, I was a guy on the street corner just knocking on doors. No, you were there. You know,
it's one step from that. Yes.
Yeah, you were a contender.
Yes. Well, I don't know if we were contenders, but we did come in 3rd place. I have not received my bronze medal yet, but when I do, I'll update everyone. It's been a few years now. The principle of human respect is something that is intrinsic to us. And here's what I mean by that. If you think about in your average day, if you're out, even if you just go to the store to go shopping and come back, in that time of leaving your home, traveling to the store, going through the store, getting what you're buying it and coming home, you came into pretty close proximity with hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. If you go on a trip, like I mentioned this at Freedom Fest, in order for me to get from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to Las Vegas for Freedom Fest, I had to go through multiple airports, multiple planes, and go into a casino with thousands of people in it. I probably came into relatively close proximity with upwards of 50 or 60,000 people that day. And yet at no point during any of these things do we typically feel unsafe. We don't know who these people are. We might know a few of them or might recognize a couple of them, but we don't know what their goals are. We don't know what their aims are for the day. We don't know what their beliefs are. We don't know anything about them. If we had a conversation with them about politics, we'd probably walk away disagreeing with them. But yet we still have this general expectation that nothing bad is going to happen to us. And it's for a very simple reason. We can suspect that none of them want to hurt us because we're all human beings. Now, here's why I say it's because we're all human beings. when you were driving there, when you were walking there, when you were, going around the store, when you were coming back, you more than likely stepped on an insect or ran over a lizard or something like that on the way to or from something. We have this sort of intrinsic understanding that we treat human beings a different way than we do any other living being. And the reason, in fact, when you went to the store, you might have bought some meat, which was once on an animal that has now been that was killed for you to be able to eat it. And there's nothing wrong with those things. It just means that we put human beings intrinsically on a different level. We respect that this is a human being, and so there are certain lines we won't cross. Now, there are obviously exceptions to this. We have people that are criminals and sociopaths. We have politicians who turn that part off of their brain when they're acting as politicians. But ultimately, we see what happens when they turn that part off and when they aren't respecting people as individual human beings. We see harm being done to people. We see crime. We see war. We see, atrocities, genocides, all sorts of terrible things. All of those boil down to the first step that has to be taken before any of those terrible things can happen is looking at this other person and seeing them as something else other than an individual human being. And so if we keep that as our North Star, if we are in all things remembering that the people we are dealing with are individual human beings and should be respected that way, we will always be more prosperous, we will be more harmonious, we will be happier. It doesn't mean you can't defend yourself if someone's trying to hurt you. Of course you can, because you're a human being and you have that right to defend yourself. But what it does mean is that if we give that respect to individual human beings that we more than likely already do on a day-to-day basis, and if we expect and demand the same from everyone else around us, including the government, which is just people operating in those capacities, we are going to be better off. And so when we find these acute examples of people not being respected as individual human beings, people having their children taken from them because the officials are looking at those children as funding opportunities instead of children, human beings. When we see people having their homes taken from them because the officials doing it see them as an obstacle to taking that home instead of a human being living in their home. When we find those examples, we don't just say, wow, that's a darn shame. Gosh, I hope someone would come around and do something about that. When we do something about that, we are that change we want to see. When we go out and we make these changes, not only do we get these people to back off, not only do we help these people whose lives were at risk of really being harmed or in some cases destroyed, but we're showing that we can create a movement of people who demand that they are respected at all times as individual human beings. And as that movement grows, there's no one that can stop us.
The movement, you are the power, using the value of human respect. And there is no greater spokesperson for it than Spike Cohen. Thank you, Spike. I'm actually loath to say these words. We're coming to a close in our time together today. So I have 3 quick questions for you. Are you ready?
Sure. Yes.
Number 1, will you come back again?
Yes.
Thank you. Number 2, Spike Cohen. You have only 80 seconds to answer this question. Mm-hmm. What is your most fervent desire?
My most fervent desire is that when that time comes that I will no longer be here, that I will have left behind a positive legacy. And not just, people remember my name, but that people are in a better position because they better understand that principle of human respect. They believe it, they act upon it, they are spreading it, they're teaching it to their children who teach it to their children. I want, when my time here is gone, that I leave a positive ripple effect that is felt positively in the day-to-day lives of people.
Thank you. And number 3, may I give you a hug in front of 439,829 people around the world?
Yes.
Let me tell you what HUG stands for. Ready? Heartfelt, unlimited gratitude. Heartfelt, unlimited gratitude. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And of course, you're listening to The Joy of Living, the humble host, Barry Shore, and our amazing guest, wonderful Spike Cohen. And by the way, you should know This show is not about Spike, great guy that he is, or Barry Shore, fabulous fellow. It's about you, Y-O-U, you becoming the best you, because when you're the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony, create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And you use the three principles of life, which we discuss in the show, the three fundamentals. Number one, life. Your life has purpose, as you heard from Spike. Number two, when you lead a purpose-driven life, you go MAD. MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for Make a Difference. Number three is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. And therefore, you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Learn to use the word smile, seeing miracles in life every day, as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in, causing rethinking, listen to Spike, causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. Shift your perspective, and then you can internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever learn. These are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Listen to what he says. He chose to remove himself from fighting MS and learning how to use gratitude and service and dissipating the whole disease. That's an amazing idea and understanding, yet shifts your perspective and your path and your trajectory. Use 4-letter words. Of course, the 4-letter words we use who live in the world, the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant are love, life, hope, play, pray, gift, swim, and tell the world to F you, capital N, capital N. After the show, you see a family and friends. Remember, you say, Barry Shore says he wants to teach the world to F you, capital N, capital N. You got their attention. Tell them what we discussed here today. Watch this again. Take notes, and then watch it a third time and spread the word around the world. Just go to the show notes. Everything will be there. And again, we urge you, use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day, consciously and conscientiously. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. So a blessing from Spike and Barry. Go forth. Live exuberantly. Spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go MAD. Go make a difference. Spike, don't go away. Good day. Beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, so I was looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance because you tuned into insider tips on the joy of living. And we have an insider who's going to give us tips. They're going to make it so you can save money and be happier and healthier and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? Everybody welcome my dear beloved Edith Edwards, the Chief Analytics Officer at something called BuzzRx. Welcome, wonderful Edith.
Why, thank you for having me, Barry. Your joy is infectious. I love it.
Well, that's what you're in charge of, infections, so getting rid of them. So let's be blunt. There's a buzz right now because of the election all about medications and the cost, the burdensome, terrible cost of prescription drugs. And you know better than anybody that there's been an increase of almost 15% over just the past year or so in thousands and thousands of drugs. And families are feeling the burden. You are head of analytics and the Chief Analytics Officer at BuzzRx, BUZZRX, BuzzRx. First of all, let's talk about what has happened to medication prices just in the past few years.
Like you mentioned, year over year, about 4,000 drugs have gone up by 15%. And get this, there are some medications that have gone up as high as 3,000%. And unfortunately, pricing of everything has just been going up, and we don't see it getting much better anytime soon.
Okay, so that was the news, the negative news. Now here comes Edith.
Here's the
with
positive.
The positive
That's
news.
right.
He is the bringer of good news. Remember, insider tips, BuzzRx. So talk to us, please. What is it about BuzzRx that can save people money in an easy, efficient, and effective way?
I have to tell you, I can't help but smile talking to you, Barry. BuzzRx is a wonderful prescription savings program that will help Americans put money back into their pockets. It will save you on average 80% on your prescription medications. It's a no-brainer. It's super easy to use, and it's accepted at over 60,000 pharmacies across the United States. Let's get the money out of the prescriptions and back into our pockets so we can be happy.
I need to repeat that. Take the money from that system and into our pockets, because that's where it belongs. And by the way, you'll be healthier as a result.
Most
You won't
definitely.
feel bad and feel burdened going into the pharmacy and say, hey, this is great because I have the Buzz RX formula card in my hand. So I guess the place where people should go is BuzzRx, BuzzRx.com. Is that correct, Edith?
That is correct. It's super easy to use. You go in onto our site or download the app. You put in the name of your medication and the quantity, the information that's right there on your bottle, on your pill bottle, or on your prescription, and then you put in your zip code. It's going to do two things for you. You're going to instantly see what price you can get for the medication, and it's going to tell you what pharmacy near you in your local area that will give you the best price. It's super easy. There's no registration. There's no sharing your information. It's instant. The whole process takes less than 60 seconds, and it's available at over 60,000 pharmacies, and you can use it whether you're insured or not. I use it all the time, and I have full-time insurance. It's a great way to make sure that every dollar you can save is saved and put into your pocket.
Okay, I have to tell you 3 words, Edith.
Oh, what is that?
I love you. What are you doing? You're helping people.
Yes.
You're helping people save money. You're making people less nervous about the fact that they're taking medication, which in and of itself is an issue. And now this whole buzz around everything that's happening in the political season, it can be reduced because you can use the buzz for your for your benefit. BUZZ. RX, BuzzRx.com. By the way, it's a great little video. It's so simple to use. I love it. And I urge everybody, this is insider tips. This was designed for you. Edith is using all of her energy. She's so smart. She's so good looking. She's so pleasant. And she's using all of her energy to save millions and millions and millions of people, billions of dollars. So please go to BuzzRx.com. Let's actually speak about something. We only have a couple of more minutes here. And what is it that makes BuzzRx so easy to use?
So first of all, there's no registration. Our pricing is stable and consistent. It's easy. It's a quick way to see that you're saving every dollar that you could possibly save. I want to give you an example. Tadalafil. Sorry, go ahead.
Please.
Oh, so Tadalafil, which is a generic version of Cialis, it retails for $700. With the Buzz
Wait a minute. She said $700.
$700. Yes, one prescription, $700. If you go to BuzzRx.com, you're able to put that information in, Tadalafil, your quantity, your dosage, all that good stuff, put your zip code, and you're going to save on average $650. 93% savings. It's an easy way to make sure that you're saving every dollar.
Okay, so you just got an amazing example. And by the way, if you can't save 93%, then even if you save 10, 20, 30%, hello, it's your money.
It's your
Here's
money.
the whole point. People complain. We're not here to complain. People who listen to the joy of living, we're not complainers. We're people of action, positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant action. Edith is directing you to how you can save money, keep it in your pocket in an easy, efficient, effective way. BuzzRx, BuzzRx. So let's take a look at something. Where can we go to learn more? I know I said BuzzRx.com. Is it that simple? Just that?
It's that simple. And I want to remind your viewers, because I feel like your viewers are the viewers that care. Every time a consumer uses the BuzzRx program, not at a cost to the consumer, only at a cost to BuzzRx, we donate to local nonprofits in your community. We want healthy communities. We donate to Make-A-Wish, we donate to Food Bank, we donate to ASPCA, the Kidney Foundation, so many. And we really believe in local communities being healthy, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
Do you realize what you just said? You're going to save money, so money stays in your pocket. You're going to be the agent for helping worthy organizations receive money. Everything is fast, it's simple, it's easy. I beg you, you must do this. You must do it. And by the way, if you, for whatever reason, don't take a prescription, and very few people don't these days, at least tell somebody else. This is really the key to the American way. Share good information with other people. That's what Insider Tips is all about. Go to BuzzRx, BUZZRX.com. Wonderful Edith, we only have about 38 seconds left. I would like you to leave everybody with a wonderful, upbeat, positive, purposeful, powerful message. What can you say in 38 seconds to energize the rest of the hundreds of thousands of people that are listening to this to go forth and do something?
Oh my gosh, thank you for the opportunity, Barry. I want to say people care. BuzzRx cares. And that's why we are always looking to make our communities healthy. And I just want people to know that there are companies out there that are trying to do good and do better. So whenever you're in the dumps and you're kind of feeling like, this world is kind of swallowing you up with all the consumerism, just know that there are companies out there that care about people and health and making sure that we are all looking out for each other.
I'm going to put that into 2 words. I'll call it conscious capitalism.
Most definitely.
BuzzRx. Edith, what a pleasure to have you here. And what we do when we finish our show, The Joy of Living, is we do a hug for our guests and all the people around the world. Let me tell you what HUG stands for. Ready? Heartfelt, unlimited giving.
Oh, I love it.
On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And a blessing from wonderful Edith and Barry. Go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Thank you, wonderful Edith. Best wishes. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.